Hello everyone, I hope this video finds you well. I'm popping by to create another little project. I've done a few journal pages in the last few videos, so I thought we'd create a card this time. And we created a journal spread with the Embossing yesterday. So I thought we'd create a card and make it look a little bit different. So what I've got is I've got a piece of Pink Frog smooth card, 300 GSM, and it's 5.5 inches square. I'm just going to use my anti-static bag and just wipe over that, just so that my embossing powders will stick sort of where I want them to and not any fingerprints that I place on there. And then I just need my Versamark ink. We're going to use that Embossing stamp and make that look a little bit different. Let's just place that in there. There we go. And then we'll take our stamp. I think we need to just give that a little bit of a clean on the back of the stamp, because it's got embossing powders, it's got my fingerprints. It's a bit grubby, so you can't expect it to stick well. That's better. And also, because I've got quite a bit of black ink on there, I'm just going to give that a wipe, mainly because I'm using that Versamark ink and I don't want to completely trash my stamp. Well, my ink pad. I don't want to completely obliterate my Versamark ink with black ink. So I'm just blotting that. So now I can go with my Versamark ink. Obviously, my Versamark is not spotless. It never is. They do get a little bit dirty, but I just don't want to add to that. So I'm just now using my Versamark, which means I won't add more black ink to this. So we'll just add a good layer of that Versamark, just like you would with your VersaFine Clair. And then I'm just going to, let's start off the page. So we'll just start off that page. And just like you would with the VersaFine Clair, I just allow that a little time just to grab hold of that card, especially because as a stamp, that's quite detailed. So I just give that a little bit of time just to grab hold onto that card. There we go, and I can see where that is, which is rather handy. And then I'm just going to place a mask over the top. And then I'm going to ink the stamp once again. So let's ink that stamp once again. And I never scrimp on the ink. So you can just put it at a different level, you know, up and down, just so that it changes the position, so that it's not sort of in a complete straight line. And again, just allow that just to grab hold of the surface, especially where we've got this mask. You just want those edges. The mask will come off, and then we'll move along and we'll place that mask here. And again, the same ink again. And then that was up, so we'll come down a little bit now. And again, add this. So you're just stamping randomly across your 5.5 inch piece of square card. And your mask obviously just sticks to the stickiness of that ink. So let's place that again. And then we'll take the ink once more. And again, just making sure I've got a really good layer of ink onto there. And just take your time just to add your stamped image. And then we just want to add a little bit of one. There we go. And again, even though I'm just adding a little bit, I'm still going to ink the whole stamp, because I know that if I don't ink the whole stamp, there'd always be a little bit that I'd miss. So I'm then just bringing part of that stamp just down the edge there. Let's just wipe our non-stick craft sheet. And you can see, even though I wiped the stamp, you can still see there's plenty of black ink still on that stamp. Still plenty on there. And that's what I love about the Versamark ink. It stays sticky until we add the embossing powder or we dry that. Just literally tipped all that embossing powder over my blending brush. And then I've got my florals all stamped on there. And then we can just take our heat tool and allow that to heat up. I'll just give that a little bit of time to heat up. There we go. And now we can heat our embossing powder. There we go, just starting to turn now. And once it starts to turn, I just move the card a little bit, just so that I'm not hitting the same area over and over again, because then it just goes back to being a flat image rather than glossy. There we go. Little bit at the bottom, just so you can just make your arrangement however you wish. You can have it going down the side of the card like we did with the journal page. You can change that just to make it look a little bit different. Just the last floral now. There we go. I haven't missed any, have I? So easy to tell if you've missed any because it's very flat. So I've got all that. Can you see that? That glossy, there we go. You can see all that glossy image. And just allow that to cool a moment before you start blending. What I'm going to do then is I'm just going to tear. I don't particularly want it like that. sort of a little bit jaggedy. And then what we're going to do is we're going to blend our colours over the top. So I've got my blending brushes. These are my own blending brushes that you can find online in my shop. And we're going to start with mustard seed. So, and I want, you know, a reasonably rich layer on there. So let's make sure we add some rich colour. So I'm going to, and I've got that jagged edge just so that it's just going to give me a little bit more random, and it's not going to be straight edges. And I do want to work with the colours so that they're clean. So you can mop that up if you wish with another piece of card. So that was my mustard seed. And then going to go with spiced marmalade. So let's have a bit of spiced marmalade. Add a little bit of that spiced marmalade. Spiced, can't speak. There we go, got nice bit of spiced marmalade. And what you can do then is go back to your mustard seed, so the previous colour, and just blend your colours. Then I'll just wipe that up just so that I'm working clean. And I'm then going to use my candied apple. So let's use a little bit of candied apple. Nice layers of those colours. Then you can just go to the previous colour if you wish and just blend that, but I'm getting a beautiful blend, so there's no need. So let's just wipe that up. So then we'll go, and you can change the angle slightly if you wish of your torn paper. What we're going to do then is use twisted citron. So let's use twisted citron. And I'm sort of keeping my colours in the order I want to use them. So a little bit of the twisted citron. So let's take a little bit more of the twisted citron, which you will get to mix a little bit with our red. And then I'm just going to use a bit of the copier paper just to take that twisted citron off there. And then I'm going to use mowed lawn. So let's use a little bit of mowed lawn. So just blending your colours over your card. Let's just clean that up again. And from the mowed lawn, I'm then going to go to salty ocean. So we'll grab our salty ocean. And obviously you've got all this colour going onto the card, onto the piece of paper as well. And what I'm doing is I'm just going over and over, blending the colours. So that is the salty ocean. Then I'm going to go to the wilted violet. Let's take that wilted violet. And blend your wilted violet. and just picking up enough colour so that it's nice and richly blended. I'm just going to get another brush. Go. So we've just got another brush, so take that there, and then let's just clean our surface again. And again, you can change the angle slightly if you wish. So we'll then go to our mustard seed and add the mustard seed. Now, if I blended the orange against the purple, you're going to end up with mud. Take a look at the piece of paper on the left hand side, how sort of, if you don't separate the colours, you end up with a muddy colour. So that's why you have to be aware. So then we're going to use our spiced marmalade. Let's use our spiced marmalade. Lid. And again, I'm just going to clean up a little bit. And then I'm going to use my candied apple. So I'll use a little bit. I'm getting towards the end of the card. A little bit of the candied apple. Just make sure you've got some nice rich layer of colour on there. So then I'm going to use a new brush for Twisted Citron. And you can see I'm sort of keeping the colours in order, just so that I use them in the same order. Probably got more ink over my fingers than anywhere else, to be honest. Let me just... So obviously you're going to pick up some colour from the previous. So that is Twisted Citron. And we want a little bit of mowed lawn. So a little bit of mowed lawn. I'm all fingers and thumbs now. So a little bit more of that mowed lawn. Trying to just keep my paper. I'm right at the edge of the paper now. That's why I'm going straight over my fingers. And then let's add a little bit of the Salty Ocean. It's easy when you get to the end, look. Not. And then we can add our last colour. I've got more of that green over me than anywhere. And then we can add our last colour, which is the Wilted Violet. So just filling in that little bit of a gap with the wilted violet. There we go. So we've got all our colours on there. Move that out of the way. Let's give this a little bit of a clean. Again, you could spritz that with a little bit of water and then you could mop that up. But obviously when you're spritzing with water, just make sure that obviously if you mix your purple and orange and it's wet, you're going to get a muddy colour. So let's grab a little bit of kitchen roll. I'm dying to get through this rubbish kitchen roll that I've got that is absolutely diabolical. So let's just fold that. And then we'll just use a little spritz of our water. Just to pick up, look how much ink that picks up. Now there's no point, once your kitchen roll is saturated with colour, don't go to the next area because you'll just put that colour back on there. There you go. So you're just lifting the colour. Just lift that colour just so that you've got the little bits of white more visible, because the embossing powder resists the ink. And then we're going to put some nice big splatters on there, and if I want bigger splatters I do find it much easier if I do that with my finger. So let's just give that a little bit of time to do its thing. And we'll just clean our area, because just flicking that bit of water, you just flick it absolutely everywhere. I'm good like that. Let me just... So those oxides or the inks, whichever you use, those react with that water beautifully. And I still never tire of watching that bleach out. Then we can use our dry kitchen roll, and that will just lift all that ink for us. Just lovely. Look, surprising how much ink lifts. And then we're just going to give that a little bit of a dry. Now don't dry it too much, because you've got that embossing powder on there, and the surface under here is also wet. So just giving that a little bit of a waft, not too much. So I think I'm going to do the butyl on, another one on top in the purple, but I just want to add a little bit of background stamping. So I'm going to use my background stamp, the background elements, which is this one, TE11 background elements. Just take that off, just to add a touch of background stamping. And I'm sort of going to use some tone on tone. So let's use, I've got the wrong stamp out. Oh, do you know? I'm dangerous, absolutely dangerous. Which stamp have I just got out? It's that one. So what did we do? There we go. Oh dear me, you know, I do worry about myself at times. Let's place that one back. So I was paying attention really. So it's this background stamp that I want to add. So I'm going to take a little bit of candied apple. Let's take a little bit of that candied apple, and we'll just add a little bit of our tone on tone stamping, and when it appears on the embossed area I can easily wipe that away. So a little bit more of the candied apple. So just giving a little bit of tone on tone. I'll lift this up so that you can see some of the stamping. It's far easier if I lift that up. And as we've used that oxide, I can just wipe my stamp because it's on there, and we'll just go to the next colour. So then I want to add a little bit of the other sort of dark colour, which is the wilted violet. So let's add a touch of the wilted violet. And I'm not pressing too hard, I'm just sort of taking the stamp, placing it on there, and then I just press once because I get enough of an impression without pressing too hard. It works really nicely. There we go, and I'm going to lift this up for you so that you can see. It's just clean our stamp because we've got all that oxide ink on there, and if I want to add touches of black stamping, which I do, that oxide will sort of react with the VersaFine Clair. I'm also going to knock my heat tool off as well because the wires are all in the way, but just so you can see just a little bit of that tone on tone stamping. So I've just used sort of the two darkish colours, sort of red and the purple. And then I want to just grab a little bit of the black ink. And I want to use my Nocturne and just give a few little touches of the black ink, which will come to the foreground because that black is a stronger ink, but you just need little touches of that. So let's just hold that up just so you can see the touches of the black. Excuse me. So what I'm going to do now is grab a scrap of card and then we're going to take our Abutalon once again. Let's take the Abutalon. Just stamp that onto a scrap of card. And then we'll sprinkle with our embossing powder with the tiniest bit of scrap of paper that I've got left. Tiniest bit. There we go. And then we'll just give that, again, we'll just melt the powder. We've got powder, it won't matter because we're cutting it out, but we've got powder all around the outer edge. it's another lovely day. So I bet a lot of you, if you're not working, will be out in the garden. Just a little bit of I just tilt it towards the light because I can just see it a little bit better as that turns. So we've got our white embossed image on here. A little bit harder to see to colour. Oh, there you go. What did I do with my pencils? But I love a little bit of white embossing and then colouring as well. So let's just do the top part first. So we want that chartreuse, and let's have a little bit of the darker green again. I don't know why I put all these away, because now there's somebody knocking at the door, so I'm hoping my husband is going to answer the door, or else I'm going to have to get up. So let's just add a little bit. It's a little bit harder to see the edges. There is the edge. Obviously we've got the embossing on there. So I'm just sort of looking, because obviously it's very difficult to see when you've got the white embossing where you're actually colouring. But it's only initially, we'll soon get there once you start adding a little bit of colour. So I've started with the peacock green, PC 907, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of the chartreuse, which I should know the colour off by heart by now, this chartreuse colour, which is 989. I did almost say 989, honestly. That's it. Once you start to colour, I can see it. There we go. So just adding that sort of peacock green. And then we can come in and add a little bit more of that colour. And then blend that colour with the chartreuse. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to colour this in purples. Not that I can lift my bag up. So we're going to colour this in purples. So I need a lighter one. These are the only ones. Yeah. What colour are you? Mulberry. So like how I dispute what colours I want. I'm just doing it by sight. Right, so then just adding a little bit of the mulberry. Yes, tell the people watching, Tracy, what colours you're using. Mulberry, PC 995. So I'm just going over the embossing very lightly, just to add a little bit of that mulberry, and just to the base. So I'm actually hardly pressing at all. I'm very lightly pressing, just so that I've got those lines. So that's my dark colour. My mid colour is Parma Violet PC1008. I'm just going to lightly go over with the Parma Violet. Just lightly applying some of that colour. And then my light colour is Lavender PC934. So that's my light colour. Just to blend the edges of that floral. So then we'll go back in the same order, and now we can press a little bit harder. Now it's a totally different look because obviously you've got your embossing on there, your white embossing that you're colouring on the top of. So just remember that. Just remember that you're colouring on the top of that embossing, so you're getting a totally different look to when we did our journal page in the previous video yesterday. So I'm just building up that colour. So then I want to go to my mid colour again, which is the Parma Violet, but going into the darkest colour and just blending those edges out. And as I go over the embossing, it fills in the white areas. And then the light colour, which is lavender. And we just go over with the light colour with our lavender. And it just gives your floral a totally different look. Now let's come back in and just now give our top part a little bit more definition. And again, blend that dark green with the chartreuse. And then I'm going to do exactly the same. So the dark colour here, the mulberry, just adding a little bit more definition now by adding a little bit more of a layer of colour, just to bring that to life a little bit more. You can just add some to the edges as well. And just got a little bit of colour in there. So I'm just adding a little bit of the colour to the edges as well, just to give it a little bit more life. So then we're going to go to the Parma Violet, and we're just going to blend Now, you don't forget you've got that embossing on there, so you will get a little bit of a bloom from the pencils. A little bit of that wax, in other words. And let's just blend. But it just gives it a totally different look to previously. Really does. It gives it a totally different look, which just adds to it nicely, really. It gives your floral a different look, which is lovely. Again, because you've got that white embossing, it's a little bit like no line colouring. But that white shows up where your black lines would normally be, in the centre of the floor. There we go. So we've got our floral. Let's just use a bit of kitchen roll just to sort of polish up our white embossing, just so that the white embossing is all nice. So let's give that a little bit of a polish. I bet you were thinking, oh, polishing in my craft. So we're just giving that card a little bit of a polish, and then you can just give that some shape. There we go. So it just has a little bit of shape. Now, really, it could do with resting a little bit more before I try and add the touches of white. But we'll go and try anyway. Now, don't forget, when you use your pen, you are going to pick up a little bit of that wax, and I'm just adding a couple of little touches of white on the green, because to be honest, there's white all in that floral, so you don't really need any more. And you could probably, yeah, go in even richer with that mulberry, especially where your lines are. Don't forget, I've wiped over as well, just to polish that up. So let's go back to our card, and what I'm going to do is take some cotton, which I pull out long lengths like this. So I just pull out really long lengths, because then it makes it nice and loose and not all bunched up. And mine's just blowing because I've got the fan on. So there we go. And then I can just grab my little bit of pinflair glue. You don't have to have pinflair glue. You can use bits of card to give dimension. You can use your 3D foam pads, whatever you wish. So I'm going to add a few good dollops of pinflair. I haven't even decided when I'm having that. Let's bring you down a bit. So let's just, it's nothing like being fussy. There we go. So a little bit down there. Let's just push this up and clean our lid, just while I think about it. Push that up. So we've got our lovely colour there, and what I'm going to use is I'm going to use my Winsor & Newton gouache to add some white splatters. I'll still use my Posca pen because they're different splatters. However, that Posca pen will take on these colours in the background, and then it sort of gives you a tone-on-tone splatter, which I also love. So, but I like a mix of both. So let's just, it's a nice big lump. There we go. And start off your splatters here. That's it. And then bring them into your card. Move your card around because you'll hit different areas. And doing the splatters this way, the splatters are much finer. Let's just plonk that on a piece of card. Clean that up. So doing that with sort of my fan brush and splattering the paint on that way gives me a finer splatter. And I find that finer splatter definitely goes further than my Posca pen, you know, as in it goes everywhere. So I've got the white little splatters on there, but I'm going to add some of my Posca as well, which gives me a bigger, different splatter. Let's just get that pumping away. So it just gives a different splatter. So it's entirely up to you, you know, how you like to finish those cards off. Now we've done a rainbow of colour. So I do want to find the sentiment that says, is it that one? Create your own rainbow. Excuse me. I'm going to use that one from stamp set TE14 because that's rather appropriate, because that's exactly what we've done. We've created our own rainbow. I'm now piling things on top of things now. And don't stretch your sentiments when you place them on your acrylic block. So what did you do with your VersaFine clay? There it is. You put it under the tissue. Again, we don't need too much VersaFine clay. It's a nice fine sentiment. So it doesn't need much pressure at all. I'll just cut that out. Again, you could cut the sentiment up so all the words are individual. Lovely. I'm just going to add a fine faux matte just to the sentiment, just holding that in place with my fingernails. There we go. So we've got a little faux black matte on our sentiment, and we can add this to our card. And I just need a little bit of adhesive on one edge, because then it'll look like it's floating and it's also got a 3D element as well. So let's just place that on there. Just give that a little bit of time just to grab hold. Oh, that'll just fall off, but it just makes it look like it's floating anyway, and you can see that natural shadow underneath, so it gives that depth. So what I'm going to do then, not that I can actually reach it, but there we go. I'm then going to add that to a black mat that is 5 3/4 inches square. And I hope that my sentiment doesn't fall off because I'm pushing me luck. So add it to the square mat. Let's lift that up because Tracy can't get it straight if she doesn't. So 5 3/4 inch black mat, and the black mat really makes that pop. We're then going to add that to, so let's find the quarter, to a 6 1/2 inch square card blank. So I'll add that to a 6 1/2 inch square card blank, which I've just cut myself out of A3 card. Let's add that to the card blank. Let's make sure we are doing a card that's the right way up. And those colours against the black and then the pop of white with the background is just lovely. And if we lift that up, you've now got a totally different feel to this card than to our journal spread in the previous video. And I enjoyed doing them both. They're just lovely, but it makes the floral look completely different. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and once again I can't wait to see your interpretation. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.